The world you thought you knew ended in 2019. Most people didn't notice, but deep down, they felt it. Something shifted, something cracked, and suddenly reality itself didn't look the same anymore. If you've ever wondered why life feels so different now, why time feels distorted, why the lies are clearer than ever, then stay with me until the very end of this video, because what I'm about to break down will change the way you see everything. Like, share, and subscribe if you want more great Angry Guy content. Support the channel, because this is where we cut through the noise and speak the truth. And before we dive in, let me remind you, if you want to protect and safeguard your assets, if you want to grow your wealth and learn how to buy, sell, and trade crypto with clarity and confidence, check out Angry's Crypto Academy. The link is in the description. Don't wait. Go check it out now, because knowledge is leverage and leverage is freedom. Now let's get into it. The world ended in 2019. That's not a metaphor I'm throwing around lightly. That's not just it's a catchy phrase. That's a reality that millions of people have felt in their bones. It wasn't the kind of ending you see in movies with explosions and chaos. It was quieter, more subtle, more insidious. It was the ending of illusions, the collapse of a false reality that had been fed to us for generations. And once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. Think about it. Before 2019, people still believed in the system. They still believed in the stories they were told, the history they were taught, the media they consumed. They still believed that the world was more or less what it appeared to be. But then something happened, a collective awakening, a shift in consciousness. Suddenly people started noticing the cracks in the facade. They started realizing that much of what they had been fed was one big lie. It's like that scene in Men in Black where Agent K regains his memories and suddenly sees the aliens all around him again. Before, he was blind to it. He walked through life thinking everything was normal. But once his eyes were opened, he couldn't go back. That's what happened to millions of people around 2019. They woke up, they saw the deception in plain daylight. They saw the manipulation, the control, the lies. And once you see it, you can't go back to sleep. And for many, that awakening was exhausting. It was painful. It was disorienting, because when the world you thought you knew collapses, when the foundation you built your life on turns out to be false, you're left standing in the rubble trying to figure out what's real. That's why so many people today feel sadness, confusion, and fatigue. They're not just tired from life, they're tired from carrying the weight of truth. They're tired from living in a reality that no longer matches the illusions they were raised on. 2019 was the pivot point. It was the year the curtain was pulled back. It was the year the lies became too obvious to ignore. And that's why, for many, the world ended in 2019. Because the world they thought they lived in, the world built on illusions, propaganda, and deception, was exposed for what it really was. And once exposed, it couldn't survive. Let me break this down further. History itself has been one big lie. The stories we've been told about nations, wars, leaders, and revolutions, most of it has been carefully crafted to serve the interest of those in power. We were taught to believe in heroes who weren't heroes, villains who weren't villains, and events that didn't unfold the way we were told. We were fed a narrative designed to keep us compliant, obedient, and blind. But around 2019, people started waking up to that. They started questioning the official stories. They started digging deeper, connecting dots, and realizing that the truth was far uglier and far simpler than the lies. They realized that much of history was rewritten to protect the powerful and to keep the masses in line. And once that realization hit, the old world, the world of blind trust, ended. That's why things feel so different today. That's why reality feels distorted. Because we're not living in the same illusion anymore. We're living in the aftermath of its collapse. We're living in a world where people are awake, where they see the manipulation, where they recognize the deception, and that changes everything. Now, let's talk about the exhaustion. Awakening isn't glamorous. It's not easy. It's not fun. It's painful. It's draining because once you wake up, you see the lies everywhere. You see them in politics, in media, in education, in religion, in culture. You see how deeply the deception runs, and it's overwhelming. It's like being submerged in water and suddenly realizing you've been breathing through a straw the whole time. You gasp for air, but the weight of reality presses down on you. That's why so many people today feel sadness, depression, and fatigue. They're not just tired from work or life, they're tired from carrying the burden of truth. They're tired from living in a reality where the lies are exposed, but the system still pretends everything is fine. They're tired from pretending to play along when they know the game is rigged, and that exhaustion is part of the awakening process. It's part of the transition from illusion to reality. 2019 was the year of the split between those who remained asleep and those who woke up. Some people chose to keep believing the lies. They chose comfort over truth. They chose illusion over reality, and that's their choice. But others chose to wake up. They chose to see the deception. They chose to face the truth, no matter how painful. And that choice changed everything. From that point on, humanity has been living in two realities. One reality is the illusion, the false world, the matrix. The other reality is the truth, the awakened world, the new earth. And those two realities coexist side by side. Some people walk through life blind, still believing the lies. Others walk through life awake, seeing the deception everywhere. And that split is why the world feels so fractured today. Because we're not all living in the same reality anymore. Think about how time feels different now. Before 2019, life felt slower, more predictable. But after 2019, time feels accelerated. Days blur together, events pile up, change happens faster than ever. That's because once the illusion collapsed, once people woke up, reality itself shifted. Our perception of time changed. Our sense of urgency changed. Because when you're awake, you realize how precious time really is. You realize how much has been stolen from you, and you feel the need to act, to change, to reclaim your life. Now let's talk about technology. Around 2019, technology accelerated at a pace that shocked people. AI, social media, surveillance, manipulation, all of it exploded. And that acceleration wasn't an accident, it was part of the shift. It was part of the new reality. Because once people woke up, the system had to adapt. It had to tighten control. It had to accelerate manipulation. It had to push people deeper into distraction, deeper into the digital matrix. And that's why technology feels overwhelming today. Yeah, because it's not just progress, it's control, it's manipulation, it's part of the illusion trying to survive. But here's the good news: awakening isn't just about seeing the lies, it's about reclaiming your power. It's about breaking free from the illusions. It's about living in truth. And that's what millions of people have been doing since 2019. They've been questioning, resisting, rejecting the lies. They've been reclaiming their sovereignty. They've been choosing to live in reality, not illusion. And that's powerful. That's transformative. That's the beginning of a new world. Let me tell you a story. Before 2019, I used to walk through life thinking everything was normal. I believed the stories. I trusted the system. I thought reality was what I saw on the surface. But then something shifted. I started noticing the cracks. I started questioning the narratives. I started seeing the deception. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. It was like waking up from a dream. Suddenly, everything looked different. Suddenly, I realized that the world I thought I lived in was gone. And that realization changed everything. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. That's what millions of people experienced in 2019. That's why the world ended. Because once you wake up, the old world, the world of lies, no longer exists. It collapses, it dies, and you're left standing in a new reality, trying to figure out how to live in truth. Now, let's talk about the sadness. Awakening isn't just exhausting, it's heartbreaking. Because once you wake up, you realize how much has been stolen from you. You realize how much of your life was built on lies. You realize how much of your history, your culture, your identity was manipulated. And that realization hurts. It breaks your heart. It makes you grieve because you're not just losing illusions, you're losing the world you thought you lived in. And that grief is part of the awakening process. It's part of the transition from illusion to reality. And here's the thing, when you wake up, you don't just see the lies in history or politics. You start seeing them everywhere. You see them in the way corporations sell you products you don't need. You see them in the way media manipulates your emotions. You see them in the way culture pushes conformity over individuality. You see them in the way education trains obedience instead of critical thinking. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's why the world ended in 2019, because millions of people suddenly saw the deception everywhere and the illusion collapsed. It's like walking into a theater and realizing the movie you've been watching isn't real. The actors are pretending, the sets are fake, the story is scripted. And suddenly, you're not entertained anymore. You're disturbed. You realize you've been tricked. That's what happened in 2019. People realized they were living in a scripted reality, a manufactured illusion. And once they realized that, the old world ended. Now, let's talk about control. For centuries, control has been the foundation of society. Governments, institutions, corporations, they all thrive on control. They control information, they control narratives, they control resources, they control people. And most of the time, people don't notice. They go along with it, they accept it, they believe it. But in 2019, people started noticing, they started seeing the control mechanisms. They started realizing that the system wasn't designed to serve them, it was designed to control them. And that realization shattered the illusion. That's why 2019 was such a pivotal year. Because once people saw the control, once they recognized the manipulation, they couldn't go back. They couldn't pretend anymore. They couldn't live in the illusion. And that's why the world ended, because the world of blind obedience, the world of unquestioned trust, the world of manufactured consent, it collapsed, it died, and a new reality was born. But here's the paradox: awakening doesn't mean freedom overnight. Awakening doesn't mean the system disappears. Awakening means you see the system for what it is. You see the lies, you see the control, you see the manipulation. And that's both liberating and terrifying, because once you see it, you realize how deep it runs. You realize how powerful it is. You realize how much work it will take to break free. And that realization is overwhelming. That's why so many people today feel exhausted, sad, and hopeless, because they see the truth, but they also see the enormity of the challenge. Now, let's talk about the split in consciousness. In 2019, humanity split into two groups. One group remained asleep, clinging to the illusions, refusing to see the truth. The other group woke up, facing the lies, embracing reality. And that split created two worlds, two realities, two timelines. One timeline is the illusion, the matrix, the false world. The other timeline is the truth, the awakened world, the new earth. And those two timelines coexist side by side. Some people live in illusion, others live in truth. And that's why the world feels so fractured today, because we're not all living in the same reality anymore. Think about how relationships change after 2019. People started waking up to toxic dynamics. They started realizing how much of their lives were built on manipulation, control, and lies. They started leaving relationships, jobs, communities that no longer served them. They started seeking truth, authenticity, sovereignty. And that shift was massive. It was painful, but it was necessary. Because once you wake up, you can't tolerate lies anymore. You can't tolerate manipulation. You can't tolerate control. You demand truth. You demand authenticity. You demand freedom. And that demand changes everything. Now let's talk about culture. Before 2019, culture was dominated by distraction, entertainment, consumerism, social media. It was all designed to keep people asleep. But after 2019, people started seeing through it. They started realizing that culture was being used as a weapon, a tool of control. They started rejecting it. They started seeking deeper meaning. They started craving authenticity. And that shift changed culture itself. Suddenly, people weren't satisfied with shallow entertainment. They wanted truth, they wanted depth, they wanted reality. And that demand reshaped culture. And here's the most important part: awakening isn't just about seeing lies, it's about reclaiming power. It's about choosing sovereignty. It's about living in truth. And that's what millions of people have been doing since 2019. They've been questioning narratives. They've been rejecting manipulation. They've been reclaiming their freedom. They've been choosing to live in reality, not illusion. And that choice is powerful. That choice is transformative. That choice is the beginning of a new world. But let's be clear: awakening isn't easy. It's painful. It's exhausting. It's heartbreaking, because once you wake up, you realize how much has been stolen from you. You realize how much of your life was built on lies. You realize how much of your history, your culture, your identity was manipulated. And that realization hurts. It breaks your heart. It makes you grieve, because you're not just losing illusions, you're losing the world you thought you lived in. And that grief is a part of the awakening process. It's part of the transition from illusion to reality. So, where does that leave us today? It leaves us in a new world, a world where the old illusions are collapsing, a world where the lies are exposed, a world where people are awake, a world where truth is emerging. And that world is both terrifying and exciting, because it's unfamiliar, it's uncertain, it's unstable, but it's also full of possibility. It's full of potential, it's full of freedom. And that's the opportunity we have today: to build a new world, to live in truth, to reclaim our sovereignty, to embrace reality. And that's why the world ended in 2019, because the old world, the world of lies, illusions, and control, collapsed. It died. And a new world was born: a world of truth, a world of awakening, a world of sovereignty. And that's the world we're living in today. That's the reality we're facing, and that's the opportunity we have. So let me ask you, what do you think? Do you agree that the world ended in 2019? Do you feel the shift? Do you see the lies? Do you recognize the awakening? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. I want to hear from you. I want to know how you've experienced this shift, because this isn't just my story, it's our story, it's humanity's story, and your voice matters. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away in cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.